Welcome to the show with no interference. Get all your NFL needs made by fans for the fans. We are your host, West Side, Big Sass, and the Bull. So here we go.
Time he can start, he gets the players going. So I don't know. I think Todd Bowles as a coach is fine, but I guess you're right. If there's a power struggle, that could be weird. Not a power struggle, but Bruce Arians lingering in the background in the shadows.
Yeah, I think Todd Bowles is a good coach. I think he did fairly well with the Jets, and that organization's been a mess. And then you still got Byron Leftwich, which that's something dumb, but he's probably leaving after this year for a head coaching job, likely, especially if their offense has another solid year. So
yeah, I really like Byron Leftwich.
I don't know. If I was anyone on the team, do you kind of feel like this is going to be like a 1 year run and then the team's going to fall apart?
I wouldn't say I think they're going to fall apart. It's hard to say. I mean, they have players. I mean, they're an older team, right? I mean, on average, they have to be over 30
Brady
at least.
alone ruins that number.
That's true.
It's 4 years.
And yeah, I mean, even their star players, like on defense, not Levante David, but the other one, the other linebacker,
Devin White.
Devin White. Yeah, like he's like their main stud defensive player, and he's younger, but he's probably like 27, 28 by now. Maybe a little bit younger.
Yeah, I mean they've been drafting well, but I feel like at a handful of positions they are pretty old.
Yeah.
But we can dive into the show. Today we're going to be breaking down the AFC as far as free agency. Not to be mixing up sports, but it's a little bit of March Madness going on with all the crazy signings and trades. AFC, I think, has really became just overall a powerhouse for the two conferences. So we're going to dive into the AFC North and see what everyone thinks about the teams in that division. So
yeah.
Oh, go right ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was looking at just all the teams and players they signed. By default, do we have to put the Bengals as number one? Or they added some offensive linemen, which I think everybody would agree that's like most important to keep Joe Burrow upright. But I was trying to rank the teams, and I felt like I feel like the Bengals are everywhere. Whoever has power rankings is going to put them top 5 in the NFL. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens come back with a strong year, and I think the Bengals can improve maybe a game or two on their record from last year and be a playoff contender. I think they will for sure be in the playoffs. But I don't know. I think the Ravens might come back, and I'm still not sold on the Browns.
Yeah,
or the Steelers, of course.
Well, my thing with the Bengals is, listen, they made it to the Super Bowl, but it's still a surprise, and they're technically still ahead of schedule. They made a lot of big signings. They brought in Lael Collins, Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, Hayden Hurst. They re-signed B.J. Hill, franchise tag Jesse Bates. For whatever reason, they re-signed Eli Apple. Who knows why they did that?
I was going to say they're cursed. There's no way they'll ever win.
But
yeah, they still had a good season no matter what happened at the end.
But, I mean, the Ravens are still a good team, as much as I hate saying that. So they're not. I don't think they're gonna beat the Ravens twice again with if they're healthy. And then the Browns bring in Deshaun Watson, who basically most of the Bill O'Brien. Well, he always had Bill O'Brien. He was basically dragging Bill O'Brien and his terrible coaching leadership to playoffs every year. Was on track to blow out the Chiefs that his last playoff run, and then they just had one of the biggest collapses ever. but I think they definitely put themselves in positions to repeat as number one. But I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid and say the Browns are going to maybe have the division. Because I just think bringing Deshaun Watson,
just with Amari Cooper.
Well, they get Amari Cooper. Who knows what happened with Jarvis Landry? But they get Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think he's a solid number 2. They brought back David Njoku, who maybe with Watson, he's maybe able to take the next step from solid tight end to good to very good tight end. And then the defense is okay. I don't think they're going to be an elite defense, but average. And then you got Nick Chubb and what's the other running back?
Kareem Hunt.
Like, as long as this team stays healthy, this should be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think the division, it's up for grabs between those 3. Steelers took a loss with Big Ben. I like Mitch Trubisky, give him a shot, but they'll probably finish out last. I think the Bengals made the right moves to protect their quarterback, which is he got sacked. He got hit way too many times last year. Yeah, I like this, especially La'el Collins, get him that left side.
Do you guys think if the Steelers go out and draft one of those quarterbacks that we won't dive into the specific players and whatnot, we can get into that later, but let's say they hit on a quarterback this year, do you think they have enough talent on their roster to be competitive, or do you think no matter what, this year is kind of a building year?
It's a building year. O-line's still not good. Defense is getting old. I would argue that Mitch Trubisky is probably going to do better than any of the rookies this year would do. I think it's a good situation to draft one if you really like one. If you really like a Malik Willis and let him sit behind Trubisky for a year, I think there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as trying to compete this year, I think Trubisky is your best bet. And I just don't think the team is going to be – they're not ready, I don't think. It's just going to be another year of running Najee Harris into the ground, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then
I think so. It sounds like we all – go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, with the Ravens, I have concerns about them. Red flag right away is the Lamar Jackson issue. He's still not signed, and it's more and more starting to look like it's getting to a point where it's almost like the Kirk Cousins Washington thing, where I think Washington, if they'd kept Kirk Cousins, would be in a much better spot all these years later. I don't think
signed him when we should have.
Yeah, but the Ravens' issue is they're giving a lot of the players that they've given a lot of money to have been hurt and have gotten worse. They got Morgan Moses, Marcus Williams are good pickups, but I feel there's just a lot of question marks, like outside of Mark Andrews and I guess Lamar. I don't know who else you can for sure like trust.
Their running back tandem was pretty good the year before last year.
Never know with these injuries.
Yeah,
modern medicine is great. Modern medicine is great and all, but you never really know.
I just saw an article yesterday saying that Lamar Jackson's tactics have possibly made him a very suave agent. I don't know what happened recently for that to occur, but he's apparently going to give himself a big payday being his own agent.
No, he didn't do anything.
Just scaring the Ravens by not knowing what he's doing.
I'll tell you what's going to get him paid is the Browns giving Deshaun Watson that contract.
The market goes up. Man.
They paid him a lot. They made it basically guaranteed as long as he doesn't get hurt or get arrested. And then he hasn't played in forever. I don't know the last time he won a playoff game. So,
yeah, another thing about the Browns, Deshaun Watson might not even play the whole year.
That's true.
He'll probably get suspended.
He could get suspended 8 games, and then at that point, what are they going to do? Are they going to keep Baker if like?
Well, they brought in
best backup.
Would he stay?
Brissett, right? They brought in Jacoby Brissett to be his backup.
Oh, that's right.
They did.
Yeah.
Well, I
so
have it this
Baker's
way.
still on the move.
I think
Brissett's not bad either.
He's not.
I think if Deshaun Watson is suspended 4 or less games, I'm going Browns, Bengals, Ravens, Steelers. That's my opinion.
That's fair.
And if it's more games, you probably won't put him at the top.
Bump them down to maybe even third.
Fair enough. Yeah, I could see that. Like I said, that top 3. We'll see how that season unfolds, but I think they all have a chance. Lamar's got to have a comeback season of sort.
But let's take a little hop skip over to the AFC East. Not not a ton of changes, but there was some big moves. The Bills, they sneaky signing, and RJ, you can agree or not, Jamison Crowder filling in for that Cole Beasley role. If he's healthy,
if he's healthy, I mean, he's a good route runner, good hands, solid hands.
And then they bring in OJ Howard, who it's all you're just hoping for potential. They brought in Roger Saffold. They signed Mitch Morse to an extension. He's a really good center. And then they beefed up their D-line. They signed Shaq Lawson, Daquan Jones, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips. That's going to help a lot with the run defense. And then they gave Von Miller all the money in the world to hopefully be just a sack specialist for him. And then really the next big splash in this division is the Dolphins with a trade for Tyreek Hill, give him that fat contract. They're going to try and have the fastest team in the league. They bring in Teddy Bridgewater, who's probably going to compete. And they snag Teron Armstead, who gives McDaniel that elite tackle to do his Trent Williams magic with.
Did they say if they brought Teddy Bridgewater in for sure to be backup, or is there any chance? I feel like I could see if Tua struggles the first month of the season, they could because I feel like they have playoff expectations.
They better.
So if Tua's not playing well, just slide in old reliable, even though, well, I shouldn't say old reliable because he gets injured, but reliable.
He's a reliable performer.
Ability. Yes.
The only quote I've seen is when Teddy Bridgewater got asked about it, if he's going to compete, he said no comment.
Interesting.
Season was starting drama.
Then the Patriots they made all their splash moves last offseason when they spent all that money, but they're solid offseason. They retained James White for a little 2-year, $5 million deal. That's a smart bet. They re-signed Trent Brown, and when he plays, he's one of the best tackles in the league. I mean, he's 6'8", 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Then they did lose Shaq Mason, who they traded away, but they re-signed Devin McCourty. They signed Jabril Peppers. They brought back in Malcolm Butler. It's basically going to be mostly the same team, but I mean, hey, they went to the playoffs, so
yeah,
not much needed.
I know Matthew Judon was trying to do his best pitches to all the free agents out there to get him to come to New England. I don't think it worked out too well, but he tried.
Not everyone wants to play with Belichick.
Fair enough.
Then he got the New York Jets, re-signed Tevin Coleman, brought back Braxton Berrios. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl kick returner. They bring in both Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzama, two solid tight ends, perfect friends for a young quarterback. They re-signed Connor McDermott, bring in Lincoln Tomlinson, very underrated guard from the 49ers. And then they beef up their defense a little bit. They give Jordan Whitehead from the Buccaneers a nice 2-year, $15 million contract. They bring in DJ Reed from the Seahawks. He's a starting corner. And they sign a few defensive linemen. But the Jets, hey, you got 2 top 10 picks for a reason.
Yep. They definitely made some solid moves. But I think it still all goes on to Zach Wilson, how he progresses this next year.
Honestly, it doesn't even really matter. As long as Josh Allen's in that division, it's his division.
Yeah.
I think just the talent gap is just too big.
Yeah, I have a feeling the Patriots caught a little magic last year. They played really well defense. They ran the ball. They played smash mouth football, and Mac Jones did what he needed to do. I don't think they're gonna I don't. It sounds weird saying I don't think they're gonna regress, but I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs this year. I think the AFC got a lot deeper this year, and I think they're one of those teams that's not gonna be able to sneak in, which is gonna disappoint a lot of Patriots fans. But I just don't think they can stack up talent wise, especially with the quarterbacks and weapons in this conference now.
They need
let alone their own division with the Bills and now Dolphin speed.
They really need a legit number one receiver.
Yeah,
and I think the one true number one out the gate receiver in this draft is Jameson Williams, who's recovering from a knee injury. So I think that would be a good fit for them, but I don't know if it's going to help them right away. And like you said, last year everything went well. They were a power run team, playing good defense. Mac Jones, basically in the games that he didn't make a mistake, they won. So
yeah, they were a team that they were good with holding possession. Mac Jones. So if you can hold the ball long, if you can keep the other team's offense off the field, your defense is good, and then your quarterback doesn't make mistakes. I mean, you can win some games in this league, and that's what they did last year.
Yeah, they won't probably be able to get that wild card there with most likely 3 teams coming out of the AFC West.
Let me throw this out about the Dolphins, all right? Brian Flores is gone. He was a little bit of not a defensive genius, but he was a sneaky good defensive coach. And they brought out some stuff that confused a few teams looking at the Ravens game. Now they're bringing McDaniel, who's a complete opposite. He's borderline. Hopefully, he's like an offensive guru. But the team doesn't work if Teddy Bridgewater can't take the next step that everyone's been waiting for.
Tua?
Tua. Yeah, I was looking at their signings. Tua. Maybe that's the secret. They need Teddy. But
the only way I see the Dolphins having any kind of success with that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle tandem is if what's his name?
McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel,
yeah, Mike McDaniel gets real creative, just like they did in San Francisco, and they kind of reinvent the way Tyreek Hill can beat an offense, and they give Tua. They're going to have to protect Tua in my mind, because if you go out there and think they're going to have an air raid offense, I just don't see it being successful. So if they can rely on the run a little bit and play a finesse sideline to sideline game, I think they could win some games. So we'll see.
We'll see how Tua does. All his weapons. See what it does with them.
Little sneaky pick: if Zach Wilson takes that year 2 jump, I think the Jets will be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's
hot take.
It's the Bills, and then Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. I don't think the talent gap between those 3 is as big as some people think. Like, you don't put Tyreek Hill with a noodle arm quarterback and expect him to fix all your problems.
Yeah.
Said what I said.
So not too far off.
Going down to the AFC South, the Deep South. It's been kind of quiet. I mean, the Jags made a lot of signings, but
Texans are going to win the division.
Okay, you can get off the show now.
Hey, Davis Mills.
Let me just break it down. Davis Mills, I think he's very impressive. I don't think he's going to do anything that amazing. They re-signed Jeff Driscoll, quarterback, tight end project. They re-signed Royce Freeman just to beat up his legs and chew him up for a year. They signed Cedric. I can't even pronounce his last name. The tackle from the Seahawks. They re-signed. Yeah, whatever. They re-signed Justin Britt, solid center. They brought in AJ Cann from the Jaguars. He's a serviceable guard. Then they brought in Blake Cashman and Jalen Reeves Mabin. They traded Blake Cashman. They traded a sixth.
They traded for him,
a 6th-round pick for him. So they get some young starting linebackers. And then they re-signed Desmond King randomly. It's just, there's just I don't want to talk about it. There's just a lack of talent, and it's sad. Bill O'Brien, it's all his fault.
They have a ton of picks now, so I mean, hopefully they can draft well.
Yeah, especially if some people said they might dump Laramie Tunsil. If they can get some picks from that. I don't know.
What was the quarterback that played last year for them?
Davis Mills.
Yeah, if he turns out to be a little bit of a stud muffin, that saves them money. They don't have to go. They're not going to be spending a ton of money on a quarterback, and they can take time to build around him with all these draft picks they have. Well, I don't think they're going to do anything next year or the year after that, but
he has 1 year to prove himself, because if he doesn't do good and they're going to have another top 3 pick, there's quarterbacks that they're going to grab.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But this year.
Yeah. Well, let's go down to the Jacksonville Jaguars, formerly named Saxonville, for 1 year, and then it fell apart.
For 1 year.
They brought in Zay Jones and Kirk Cousins, spent about $100 million almost between the two. What did I say?
Kirk Cousins.
Did I say Kirk? I don't know where my brain is. They brought in Zay Jones and Christian
news
Kirk
people
for almost $100 million. I think it was
ridiculous.
Just because you have money, I always say if you got money, spend it. But the Jacksonville Jaguars in this year alone made me rethink that model.
Well, they set the tone for the wide receiver market. It was ridiculous.
RJ, what you just did was what Urban was doing last year instead of game planning.
Exactly. It's live looking, folks.
They signed in Evan Ingram to basically a 1 year, $10 deal, $10 million deal. I don't know. He can't block. He's got the drops.
So many drops.
The one player that I thought they should throw money at, Cam Robinson, they just franchise tagged him. If you got a good left tackle, just lock him up. They paid Brandon Sheriff, but
he's played 8 games in 2 years.
Yeah. And then they signed Arden Key, who he had a breakout year for the 49ers, but I think he only got like 6 sacks. He's more of a run defender. I just didn't make sense to me. And they gave Darius Williams a 3-year, $30 million deal. And again, we talked about this on our Division Doctors segment. In my opinion, they need a slot receiver, and though he's a smaller build, slot corner, and though Darius Williams is a smaller build, he's an outside corner. So we're just going to see how that works out.
Yeah, he played well opposite side of Ramsey. I remember he had that 1 year. He had 2 years ago, like 7 picks or something like that.
Then you got the Indianapolis Colts. Oh, go ahead, Trevor.
I was just going to say we can go on to the Colts, but I was going to say it's odd to me that the Jaguars are spending all this money to seemingly surround Trevor Lawrence with as much talent as they can, like they're in a win now Trevor Lawrence type scenario. And then I don't know if there was like money reasons or not, and then they get rid of a player like Miles Jack, who I think is a good player.
Yeah, that makes no sense with all that cap. We talked about that a little bit.
But we can move on to the Colts.
They did bring in that I can't say his first name, but Ololokun from the Falcons.
Oh yeah,
he was a beast. Had like 170 tackles last year.
Yeah, but they brought him in, and then they dropped Miles Jack, so it's like
I was thinking like that would be a nice little linebacker tandem, but
dropped one.
That's why they lose.
Then you got the Colts. They make the trade they trade away Wentz, bring in Matt Ryan, and hey, good for them, I guess. But then they re-sign Mo Alley Cox. They re-sign Matt Pryor. They trade Rock Ya-Sin for Yannick Ngakoue. And we'll see. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but they still don't have enough weapons for Matt Ryan to succeed. Run, and then throw a jump ball to Michael Pittman. I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah.
I really like the Matt Ryan trade. I know they don't have a ton, really any weapons on the outside, but the run game's really good. And I think they have a good enough defense. I know it had its weak spots last year, but I think their defense can maybe play decent enough. And if Jonathan Taylor can have another year like last year, they can win some games with Matt Ryan. And then maybe add a receiver in the draft. I don't know if there's anybody on the trade block. I don't think there is receiver-wise, but I think they could sneak in there. Like we said before, it's a deep conference this year. But I don't hate the Matt Ryan trade.
It's solid. I mean, I don't hate it. It's
Yeah,
just, another year in a row without having a new starting quarterback. But let's move on to the Tennessee Titans, number one on the field, number one in your hearts. They
By the way, Jim Irsay is just as bad
trade
as Dan
for.
Snyder.
Yeah, honestly, Titans trade for Robert Woods. They sign Austin Hooper from the Browns. They re-signed their center Ben Jones, bring in Jamarco Jones from, I believe he played on Seattle last. They gave Harold Landry a nice fat contract to be their premier edge rusher.
Well deserved.
And then they made some small re-signings here and there. But we know this team, it's going to be the Derrick Henry show. And hopefully he puts the team on his back.
Yeah, I like what they added with Robert Woods and Austin Hooper. Taylor, you can give more of an opinion on that if you want, but that's to help Ryan Tannehill. Like you said, it's a Derrick Henry show, but the more help you can bring in for Ryan Tannehill, the better. And if your defense builds on what they did last year, there's no reason to think they won't be in a similar situation record-wise next year.
Yeah, now you don't have to solely rely on A.J. Brown to be your only pass-catching option, really, because I know tight end's been a pretty big hole for you guys for a while.
Ever since
Not a while, but
I like Johnny.
Johnny was good. What do you say?
Yeah, I like Hooper. He's not great at any one thing, but he can block. Mm-hmm. He can make contested catches, but at the end of the day, he should be able to work that intermediate, just get open and just be a safety blanket. Mm-hmm. And then for the most part, it's the same team, and they're dumped Julio Jones, got Robert Woods. Defense, the front four is going to be, again, probably one of the more dangerous front fours in the league again. I saw this meme a couple days ago, and it was like the AFC South every year, and it was like Colts sign new quarterback. Colts get picked to win the division. Colts quarterback doesn't work. Titans win the division. And they're like, that's the cycle of the last 4 years. But like you were saying, so Texans and Jaguars, I don't have faith in unless Trevor Lawrence, becomes the chosen one, which he might. I don't like their talent. And then the Colts, I like Matt Ryan. It's just they might end up, as of now, they're kind of in the same boat as the Titans, where it's if their run game isn't firing off, they are kind of a mediocre team. At least A.J. Brown, like you said, can house a few 50-yard touchdowns to make just enough difference.
I mean, Robert Hood's healthy. He's no scrub.
Mm-hmm. I'd be more excited about him than Julio coming off free agency last year.
Well, I just meant talking about the Colts, how they have Michael Pittman, and then that's about it.
That's literally it. T.Y. Hilton hasn't played his full season. I don't know how long. Pascal left.
And then they're also
Cox was, okay, but
they need Yannick to get some sacks. If he doesn't get them a good amount of sacks, then they're going to be in trouble. I still think it's the Titans division.
For sure. I'm not going to find disagreement here.
All right. Any parting thoughts before we move on?
Just fingers crossed. See Derrick Henry hit 2K next year. Love to see it. Let's get it.
That'd be nice.
Could have been Derrick Henry 3K.
Yeah.
Maybe.
As in,
last year.
Wait. Never mind. Erase that from your head.
He was on pace for something crazy.
No worries. Off to the Wild West. So we know a lot of the splash moves, but we can just highlight some of the other things that went down. Denver Broncos trade for Russell Wilson. They signed Billy Turner, Tom Compton to help with the O-line. They got Randy Gregory to a 5-year, $70 million, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that they stole him from the Cowboys, people would be saying how terrible of a contract that is.
They definitely overpaid for him.
He had his career high is like 6 sacks, and I still don't know if you can trust him to make it through a year.
Yeah, he doesn't put up a ton of sack numbers, but he's disruptive. He gets pressures on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And that was a weakness for them last year. I just don't think
you pay for pressures.
No, that's fair. I definitely think they overpaid for him, but if that's what it took to get him to come from the Cowboys, and I can't remember if Russell Wilson trade was before or after that. I think it was before. It's an all-in type deal. They obviously are trying to win the Super Bowl this year, so I mean,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's definitely a free agency of throwing money at players that don't deserve it.
Pair him up with Chubb on the other side. You got a nice little.
And they bring in DJ Jones, which I think is a good signing. They're going to be. I mean, hey, they're going to be really competitive. Everyone said if only they had a quarterback, and now they have Russell Wilson, so good on them.
Yep.
Kansas City Chiefs. They brought in Ronald Jones, who just means they just add to their plethora of mediocre running backs.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Corey Coleman, who hasn't played since 2018 and is just a disappointment. If he somehow turns into Tyreek Hill 2.0, I'm going to just give up on the league. They bring in Juju Smith-Schuster on a 1-year, $10 million deal. I mean, just look at that. The Chiefs got Juju Smith-Schuster for basically the same amount of money the Jags got.
Zay Jones?
No, the tight end from the Giants.
Evan Ingram.
Yeah, it's basically the same contract. And they bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I like, but it could speed with incentives. It could be 3 or $36 million. They tagged Orlando Brown, and then they haven't really done much on the defense. They
brought in Justin Reed.
They
Jermaine Carter Jr.
Yeah. It's just I don't think it's anything. They lost. Yeah. I think you can make an argument that they've lost more than they've added.
I think they've had the worst free agency so far in that whole division for sure.
I've seen a lot of people just talking. I've seen a lot of people going, "What if Mahomes just falls apart?" And I was like, "That would be fun."
Anything's possible.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna fall apart. I don't like the Chiefs, but I like Andy Reid, and I trust Andy Reid. And I think they tried to make some strategic moves this offseason to elongate their window. Maybe not like Super Bowl, like perennial, like Super Bowl contender, but at least making the playoffs every year. And then maybe they can refresh to another Super Bowl contending team. I have no idea how. I'm just guessing, and I have faith in Andy Reid.
I mean, I agree with that.
And that's the only reason why I say that.
In Andy Reid, we trust. But on to the next team so we can kind of wrap this stuff up. Raiders traded for Devontae Adams, but that wasn't all. They gave Max Crosby a big 4-year, $98 million extension. They bring in Chandler Jones on a 3-year, $50 million contract. They bring in a couple linebackers and defensive tackles to beef up that run game. They traded Yannick for Rock Ya-Sin. Just nothing really crazy. Well, I guess the Devontae Adams is crazy, but it's just the AFC West is just ridiculous. Like, I like the Raiders team, but they could finish 4th, and people would be like, "Yeah, makes sense." And then
they could finish. I don't know. You just said it's a wild division. Yeah, I have no idea.
You got the Chargers. They re-upped Mike Williams to a 3-year, $60 million deal. If he's healthy, He's one of the best receivers in the league. They bring in Gerald Everett, which is hopefully going to give him that tight end presence that all young quarterbacks like to have. They brought in Christian Covington, Austin Johnson, and Sebastian Joseph Day, which, I mean, I honestly pray helps their run defense because that was hard to watch all year long. But the biggest moves, they bring in Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson. If you're going to be getting in shootouts in the Wild West, better have a pass rusher and a lockdown corner, and they got it. But hey, it's the Chargers, and I've been a Chargers supporter for so long, for so many Phillip Rivers teams, and they're cursed. I don't know what it is, but if something could go terribly wrong, it will go terribly wrong for them.
I think Herbert's going to break that curse.
I thought it was
He's got the stuff. I mean, he's been going on his third season. Give him some time. Definitely, it's going to be the franchise quarterback for a long time. I don't think we have to worry about him after his rookie deal's over.
Yeah,
So,
I like the pieces they added. But like you said, with the run game, if that's not very much improved, they're going to be in a similar situation they were in last year. Maybe a little bit better with adding some superstar talent and Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson. But if you're going to get gashed for 150 yards a game, you're not going to be competing in the end.
So I'm going to throw this little wild card out. If I had to pick right now, as it stands, I think, and RJ, you'll probably completely disagree with this, I think the Raiders can pull out this division just because I feel like they've kept their team together the most. They added a stud receiver, maybe the best receiver in the league. And I think I know what to expect with them. The Chiefs lost a lot. The Broncos bring in Russell Wilson, but even with great quarterbacks, there's usually like a 1-year grace period where they just get settled in. And like I said before, the Chargers are just cursed, and I really just don't trust them at all.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all.
Yeah, do you think there's a grace period with... No, I guess not with Devontae Adams because they have familiarity already, and he just if he's going to be able to learn the playbook. He has all offseason, and then he's an amazing route runner as is. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders won the division. I think if you're looking at just talent wise, the Chargers should win the division. I think, but like we all agree, I think we all agree that a lack of faith just from the last 15 years of the same thing happening over and over with that team.
The Chargers could easily be the number one team in the league and be smoking everybody. Just as easily they can miss the playoffs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Josh McDaniels biased aside, they made a lot of good moves to stay competitive in the most competitive division in the league. So I don't see why not.
Yeah. Yep. So that kind of is it for our rundown of what's been the March Madness of AFC free agency. We're going to discuss a little rule change that happened in the NFL. After what happened in the Bills-Chiefs game with Josh Allen sitting on the bench looking like a lost puppy, losing the game, they decided to change the rule for playoff overtime. Now, both teams get a chance to score, and after that, it becomes sudden death. I know my opinion on it, but Trevor, what are your thoughts on it? Good for the league? Doesn't matter?
I'd like to see how it goes in a few games, but they're giving the team an extra possession to get the ball, but the team who gets the ball first still has the advantage. They're going to score. The Chiefs scored a touchdown last year in the playoffs. Okay, then the Bills get the ball. They scored a touchdown. Yay. They got the chance to touch the ball. Then the Chiefs get the ball and they kick a field goal. That gives no advantage to the Bills. The only advantage, it does nothing in my opinion, because if the Chiefs kick a field goal, the Bills would have gotten with the old rules, the Bills would have gotten a chance anyways, and if they scored a touchdown, they would have won. It just seems. I think it's going to add more ties.
Potentially.
Can't tie in the playoffs.
I don't know.
Oh, that's true.
Fair enough.
Good point.
Regular season, same rules.
RJ, I think you disagree with my and Trevor's thought process.
I mean,
so
not a hard disagree. Not a hard disagree. I just, like he said in the beginning, I like to see how it works out, but I still think it's better than it is right now, just because at least they get the ball. I mean, if Team A, like you said, gets the ball and they don't score, Team B now has an opportunity to get the ball and go down and win the game. And so it just puts more pressure on the other team's defense, but defenses can stop them. It's not guaranteed they're going to score every time on the first possession.
Yeah, I think
you got to see how it goes.
We're going to get to the point. I think we're going to get to the point where it's college rules where everyone gets a chance.
Ask you next.
It's like you're almost playing horse because, as Trevor just said, the team who wins the coin toss still has an advantage. If you lose the coin toss, you still need to get a defensive stop to win the game. So it really doesn't matter. Josh Allen could still end up on the bench like, oh, I didn't get another shot. I lost. And I like Josh Allen. I'm not making fun of him. It's just that's how the rule works.
Yeah, but at least he got to touch the ball,
so
which was their main complaint.
I think we're going to go to college rules, maybe even next year, where it's Team A goes, if they score a touchdown or a field goal, Team B gets the ball, and they either outscore them and win, or they tie the score and it repeats. And same thing, if Team A doesn't score and Team B doesn't score, it repeats. One thing I will say is this rule change should never go into the regular season. I think the regular season should just stay old school sudden death. No point to be adding times to these games, chances for injuries. Hey, if you tie in the regular season, you tie in the regular season. But if they want to go to playoffs, college football style, overtime rules, I'm all for that. But just go right into it because the rule this year doesn't really change anything.
College would be interesting.
Yeah, I think
college
if the NFL. Yeah, I think if they adopted a few things college does, it would make games a little bit more exciting at the end.
I still want them to drive the full field. I don't want to be like college where it's a short field. I want them to drive the full field, but just the back and forth thing that college has.
I think the whole fact, because it's the playoffs and it's just bigger than one. I don't know. It's one to lose it on one possession, not even have a possession. I think this is the main reason. But I mean, people are going to complain about everything, no matter what. Anyway, I'm sure they'll still be filing complaints at the end of every season for stuff like this. They can't please everybody, but and it doesn't really matter what the fans think. At the end of the day, the owners and whoever submits the reports to the league, the rules, they're still going to do their thing.
Yeah. We'll see. Personally, I like the rules to stay as they are. I don't like them being dabbled with too much, but I don't hate this one. I just wish they would have went all the way and not just little.
Especially if they're going to doing it anyway.
One Hail Mary from the 50, each team.
Hail Mary.
One team gets it.
You just have to catch it. You don't have to be in the end zone.
Really
if you drop it, you lose.
So we're getting a little short on time, but we wanted to dive into the draft just a little bit, give you a little taste. So we wanted to discuss quarterbacks, offensive linemen, maybe just real quick, guys we like, guys we don't like. It's not a deep dive, but like I said, just a little sample.
Some slight.
Y'all want me to go first, or?
Go ahead.
How about it?
All right. So quarterback-wise, and I've said this a couple times, I like Sam Howell out of UNC. When he had talent around him, he put up great numbers. And again, he reminds me of Baker Mayfield. And I know people are like, well, Baker Mayfield lost his job, but he's put up good numbers. My thing with Sam Howell is I think if you're a team that wants a quarterback, no quarterback in this draft is really great. You can hopefully get Sam Howell in the second round and develop him into a good quarterback. And then with Ritter, I think he's solid, high floor, low ceiling. I think he is what he is. If he goes to a team that's ready to compete and you protect him, I think he can be good. I just don't think you're going to ever get much out of him. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm actually really high on Ritter. Not like to start right away, but I like his intangibles. I like how he can throw out of the pocket. He can sense the pressure coming. He's got a really good, I wouldn't say deep ball like all the way, but he's got the arm strength to get it there. His accuracy's off a little sometimes, but when it's right, man, I think it's beautiful. He's got good throw power. He's good on his feet. He can run too. He ran a 4.5. He's bigger body, not the biggest. He's no Josh Allen, but he's 6'3", 2 something. He can definitely put his shoulder down if need be. I think the thing that stood out the most when I was watching his film was definitely the way his footwork can use some improvement, of course, but I think he can really see the pocket coming down, and he knows when to go, where to go to make the play. And then offensive line wise, I'm just gonna go right into my guard. I was watching this film a lot earlier. I like Kenyon Green, Texas A&M, just a mauler. He can play anywhere on the line. I know he struggled a little bit on the outside, a little against speed rushers, but overall his hands are quick. His stance is wide. He puts his hands right in the inside, and then even when the defender smacked him away, his reload speed, he's just like right back at it again, like without hesitation. He can pull, he can pancake, he can do everything. I think whoever gets him definitely got a stud.
Fair judgment.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment on the quarterbacks. I think by default, Kenny Pickett is, to me, maybe the most ready. If you need to pick a quarterback out of all these quarterbacks, you can come in and start right away, which I don't think any of them should. He's the one that could. I don't think he has the most upside. I just think he has the least downside.
I don't,
in my opinion,
any quarterback who wears gloves.
Me either. I don't like that. I think it is a flaw, even though it sounds stupid to say his small hands, but he wore gloves in an indoor stadium. It's going to affect him in the rain. Sam Howell, I just think he has a nice release and touch and everything. I just think he's a little handicapped because he's small and he's not that athletic. I think he can make plays here and there, but just don't love him.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on the quarterbacks.
Parting thought I'm going to squeeze in. Offensive lineman I like Tyler Smith, Trevor Penning, and Jamari Sawyer. One thing in common, strong, mean maulers in the run game. You can always bet on that to work in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll discuss that more later. That does it for the show. This is podcast number 2 for No Interference. It's Westside, Big Sass, and the Bull. If you haven't already, subscribe, share the video. We're going to try and get you as much NFL content as we can between YouTube and our social media platforms. Drop a comment and we'll try and get back to you. Adios.
Deuces.